and welcome back to my channel. This is Debbie from the Inspiration Station, and I'm bringing you another process video using the Creating with Sketches bundle from Allison Davis. This month I'm using 2-page sketch number 5, and it will be another double-page spread. Not my usual thing, but I had some photos. My husband and I went on vacation up to Quebec, and some friends of ours took us to the Lumberjack Museum. And my husband is a logger, also known as a lumberjack. We don't call them lumberjacks anymore, but we call them loggers. So anyway, it was kind of interesting. The people that we were visiting know us very well and thought this was something that we would really enjoy. So this month I'm going to be using some wood grain paper, obviously, because we're talking about wood and loggers and lumberjacks. I have some paper that is like birch trees to brighten that up. I did have these scraps of paper. They look like maybe I think they were actually basic gray. I think I saw something, yep, basic gray, really old basic gray. I'm going to use that to mat some of the smaller photos. And then I have a number of lumberjack collections from Echo Park. I think there was 1 or 2 years where they really went a little crazy and they did 3 or 4 lumberjack lines. They did Let's Lumberjack, they did Little Lumberjack, they did Lumberjack Christmas or something like that. The only issue that I have with that is that the color scheme for all of those collections was red, black, and white. And while that's great because you can mix the collections and they coordinate very well, they don't work well for my photos because there is no red in these photos whatsoever. And to be honest, if you know any guys that work in the woods, they don't wear red flannel. They never do. It's just a stereotype. They're usually in Carhartt t-shirts or high-vis t-shirts and jeans. Even in the wintertime, they're not really wearing red flannel. It's just not the thing. But anyway, that's the stereotype. That's what they have in all of these pieces. So what I was able to do, though, is tone some of the red down. For example, on this sticker, he had a very red hat. And red, as I said, is not a color that we're going to have in our photos. So what I did was I had this sticker sheet as well, and I wasn't going to use this particular sticker at all. So I went and got my Copic markers, and I found this brown, and I tested it out here, and you can see where I tested it. And if I go over this, I can tone it down just a little bit, so it's more of a dark red or a maroon rather than this really bright red. So I think that's going to work much better for me. So I did that on both of these little red hats, just to bring down that super bright red. I was afraid to go over his shirt. I may do it. You know what? Let's be brave. It's not going to cover up because the alcohol ink is translucent. It's not going to cover up the detail. But yeah, see, so it's a little toned down. It's muted. It's a little bit better that way. So that's how I'm going to fit those in, because those are a couple of stickers that I want to use since, we've got the little lumberjack here, and this is perfect because they were actually reenacting the crosscut saw. So I have to use that somehow. Not sure how that's going to work, but that's where we're at. So I'm going to get started and I will be right back. So the first problem that I ran into using the sketch was that Allison used 4x6 photos. And I had these photos printed before I knew I was going to use them this month. And they are 3.5 by 5, which is fine. But if I use them as is, if I set them up this way, you can see how wide the border is going to be. This was actually supposed to fit across the middle here. I'm going to scoot that over. And it leaves way too much on this side. So I'm going to have to go and find some extra photos and cut them down. I think I decided they were going to be 2.5 by 3 that I'm going to fit in because otherwise this is how it's going to end up. Way too much space. So now I need to go find some more photos. So I'll be back in a minute. So off camera, I did find a couple of more photos. I was able to go back and find a couple of detail shots. And one of the things that I do when I'm traveling often is take photos of signage. So in this case, every one of the exhibits had a sign, and I did take photos of all of them. I didn't use them all on the page, but it's always good to have that signage to tell you the stories that you're gonna forget when you get home. So I did have that. You'll see I only had some really scraps of that birch paper. I did not have a full sheet. So I ended up making this black mat for the entire piece, and I will use the photos to cover up that top part. So I'm going to line these up. I did use all of the photos that I had originally chosen, and then found these other ones that I fit in. And you'll notice when I start laying them out, the smaller photos that I added in are a little shorter. They're only 2 by 3, and the other photos were 3.5 by 5. So there's going to be a gap underneath those 2 small photos. But it worked out okay because in the sketch, Allison had a strip of paper. I don't remember if it was a 1/4 inch, but I made it a 1/2 inch, going across the middle, sort of covering up the seams. And I just moved it up high enough so that it would cover that gap on the smaller pictures. So it all worked out just fine. So I'm going to get that done and then finish up with the other photos. Now there is a point here that apparently I lost footage because I did go and I die cut a bunch of trees. It was a Tim Holtz, I think it was a Thinlits die of, it's called Tree Line, and I'm going to end up using that along the bottom of the mat of photos, but for some reason it didn't show up in my footage. So you'll see it at the end, but it's not there now. Now I didn't have an appropriate title in the stickers, and I wanted to use the phrase timber, so I did go and use my Cricut, and I did print and cut. So you'll see that I cut it out and I did put it up on foam tape. And here you can see that tree line die set that I was talking about. It's actually, the tree line goes across, and then there's a couple of added trees that were another die that I can't remember. Now here is a Sizzix Bigs die, and it comes with this embossing folder, and it's called Tree Rings, I believe. It is another Tim Holtz product, and I use this quite a bit on holiday cards, but I don't think I've ever, well, I may have used it once on another page, but I thought this was the perfect place to use it. So I did cut them out of craft paper, and then I used some distress ink to add color to it. And you'll see I used 3 different browns, going from light to dark, and using that darkest color, I think was ground espresso, on the edges, so that it just gave it a lot of dimension. And I think those are the perfect accents for this page. So I'm going to bring the pages back, try and figure out where I'm going to use them. I didn't end up using both of them, but I did cut them in half, and you'll see me move them around the page trying to get a read on where they would look good. I ended up with those 2 outer corners, and they made a perfect cluster base for my stickers. So yeah, it's moving along quite nicely. This might be a good time to remind you that any time that you can give a creator a thumbs up on their video, it is a big help. It helps tell people, tell YouTube that you like this content, and it helps bring other people to the content, people who like the same things that you do. So I would truly appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up, maybe leave me a comment on this, and if you haven't yet already, please subscribe to my channel. Well, my journaling I did on strips. I didn't see a place that I really wanted a block of journaling. I maybe could have used some vellum, but I find the strips are pretty easy to put down. And I did end up putting the thin foam tape behind these just to raise them up. Okay, so here is the finished layout. I decided to not do a whole lot of embellishing on this for a couple of reasons. The background paper is pretty busy. And I did this border here with all the trees, the die-cut trees, and I kind of thought that was enough. I did add in the tree rings and the couple of stickers that I had picked out, but other than that, I don't think I'm going to add anything to this. I think we're going to leave it just the way it is. As I'm looking at it, I realize I did not put the date on, so I will go back with a date stamp and add that on. But other than that, I think it's done. So thank you for joining me again. I really appreciate you coming in and spending some time with me here on my channel. Please remember that this is a YouTube hop with several other creators, and make sure you go to visit them and see what they have to do. They're linked below in my description. And in the meantime, I want to thank you again for being here, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.